Welcome back to the Power-Based tutorial series. In this session, we're going to look at the duplicate rules that are available and how you create them, how you use them. We click on contacts and go to find and merge duplicate contacts, and when we do so, we get to this screen that shows us the individual rules, the organizational rules, and the household rules. One of the things to point out here is that we have one supervised rule, one unsupervised rule, and then if you have others, they are just marked general rules. The important thing to understand is that the supervised rule is the default rule that is being used by Powerbase whenever a logged in person is doing something in the database that requires the database to verify whether or not this is a duplicate record. The unsupervised rule is when someone that is not logged into the database, like someone making a contribution on your website or registering for an event, and then the database is going to use the unsupervised rule as the default. This also comes into play when you're importing data. The database considers an import to be unsupervised because you are typically adding a whole lot of records in the database, and so the default rule that is used by the database is the unsupervised one. Let's look at what a rule looks like. My supervised and unsupervised rule are actually exactly the same. And this is one that we recommend, especially if it meets your needs. So, what this rule says is that if the email in this person's record already exists in the database, this record gets 5 points. And since our threshold for identifying this as a duplicate is 5, it means that if the email matches, it considers it a duplicate. Additionally, if the last name and the first name and the phone match, that would add up to 5 points as well, as would last name, first name, and street address. So this is a good rule if your folks are not sharing email addresses among spouses, among family members, and there are people that don't have email addresses. This rule will cover both of those criteria. And as you can see, we have the usage option, and this one is identified as supervised, and we can change that. Let me cancel this. And you should note that if you are editing a general rule and you make it supervised or unsupervised, the database will automatically change the previous rule that was marked supervised and make it a general one, because there can only be one supervised and one unsupervised. Very quickly, one of the things to mention is that you can make other rules, and it is quite handy to be able to do so. Here is an example of if the first name and the email address match, then we consider it a duplicate. Nice and simple, 1 and 1, and it adds up to 2. And on this screen, you can use these rules. And so if I click Use Rule, I can select a group that I want to run through this process to see if any of the records in the group are already duplicated, which is handy when you have a group of, say, people that are signing up for your newsletter via the web. And on a regular basis, you could run that group through this process to see if they exist. And this database doesn't have any duplicates, and so we will leave the merging duplicate records for another day. Thank you.